A very good morning to all. Today, we are going to discuss a new topic. First, let's discuss about eclipse. So, have you all heard about eclipse? So, what is this eclipse? So, let me give you an example. So, you all have seen the sun shining in the bright sky, right? So, it is so hot and bright. So, just imagine the sun is rising slowly towards the noon. So, we know that during the noon time, it is very bright and shining. So, just imagine slowly the sun gets covered by something. Okay, first 50% covered, then more than that, then it is completely getting covered like night. So, there is no sun. So, actually what happened here? And after some time, you can see the sun is slowly coming back. So, what really happened? In the bright daylight, the sun went away for a few seconds. So, what actually happened here? What do we call this phenomenon? So, this phenomenon, we call it as eclipse. So, what is eclipse? When one heavenly body partially or completely covers another heavenly body from view, that is called as eclipse. Eclipse can be of two types, that is solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So first, let's discuss about solar eclipse. So what is solar eclipse? When the moon partially or completely covers the sun, we call it as solar eclipse. That is when the sun gets eclipsed or when the sun gets covered. That phenomenon we call it as the solar eclipse. So, when the moon partially or completely covers the sun, we call it as solar eclipse. So, let me explain to you about solar eclipse with this picture. So, we all know that the earth revolves around the sun and the moon revolves around the earth. So, you all know the different phases of moon. So, on new moon days, so that is once a month, the moon comes directly between the sun and the earth, and on such day, we face a dark side of the moon, and the moon is not visible in the sky, and that is called as the new moon. So, on new moon days, the moon is exactly in between the sun and the earth. So, as you can see, the moon blocks the path of light. So, here you can see the moon blocks the path of light that reaches the certain regions of the earth. So, if you closely observe the picture, you can see the moon is smaller when compared to sun and the earth, so that its shadow can only cover a small portion of the earth. So, the shadow of the moon can cover only the small portion of the earth. And the solar eclipse, it occurs only for a few seconds. That is, the shadow of the moon on the earth is only for a few seconds and then again they move away. So, solar eclipse, it happens only for a few seconds. When the moon completely or partially covers the sun, we call it as the solar eclipse. Now let's see what is total and partial solar eclipse. So what is total solar eclipse? So when the sun is completely blocked by the moon, then we call it as total solar eclipse. And when the sun is partially covered by the moon, then we call it as partial solar eclipse. So solar eclipse can be total or partial. It can be total solar eclipse or partial solar eclipse, and it happens only for a few seconds. The next type of eclipse, that is lunar eclipse. So what is lunar eclipse? When the light of the sun is stopped from reaching the moon, we call it as lunar eclipse. So when the light of the sun is stopped from reaching the moon, what do we call? We call it as the lunar eclipse. So let me explain to you with this picture. So here you can see the earth is in between sun and moon. So, on full moon night, the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. So, the earth, it blocks the path of light from reaching the moon. So, when the moon gets eclipsed or when the moon gets covered, we call it as lunar eclipse. And here you can see the earth shadow is falling on the moon. The earth shadow completely or partially covers the moon. And this phenomenon we call it as the lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipse, it results in red color of moon. The next, let's see total and partial lunar eclipse. So when the moon falls on the darker part of the earth shadow, that part will have total lunar eclipse. And the moon, when it falls on the lighter part of the earth shadow, that part will experience a partial lunar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse, it lasts for few hours. And unlike the solar eclipse, lunar eclipse can be viewed with naked eye. So that is about the two types of eclipse, that is solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So the next is about astronauts on the moon. So it was on July 20th, 1969, for the first time the humans stepped on moon. And the two American astronauts were Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin. This was a part of Apollo 11 mission to the moon, and Michael Collins was the commandant module pilot for Apollo 11. So that is about the astronauts on the moon. So we are done with the chapter. So you all can go through this chapter and complete the exercise from page number 136 to 137. And you can do the activity in page number 138, that is the project solve. So once you are done, you can submit in Microsoft Teams. So we'll meet in the next class and discuss a new chapter. Till then, thank you.